It's Wednesday, August 10. In the headlines, Jamaica signs MOU with Namibia. Regionally, in Barbados, more calls for ease at the pumps. Internationally, immigration woes in the USA. And in sports, Sunshine Girls get $14 million support. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Jamaica will be extending support in several areas to the Republic of Namibia's tourism sector. This support is being facilitated under a Memorandum of Understanding signed for tourism collaboration between the two countries. The decision comes as Namibia looks to increase efforts to revitalize the industry, which has suffered a major fallout in occupancy and employment levels because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett provided details during a meeting with Namibia's Minister of Presidential Affairs, Christine Hubez, recently. He says the focus areas will include sustainability, resilience, and destination assurance.
I'm excited about that. My team worked very closely with your team in Namibia to structure the arrangement. And central to it is our response to your recovery needs. So we want to work with you with marketing. I think Jamaica has been able to market a little better. And besides, we also are at the bridgehead to North America, which is a very useful positioning for you in terms of the new market thrust. Then we want to work with you in terms of human capital development.
Minister Hobez says the agreement will strengthen the collaboration between the two countries.
So, of course, there are also cruise ships that are landing in Namibia, but not at the rate that it is landing there. So this, not yet. That is why this agreement is so important for us, so that we can look into the possibility of how to streamline the ships that are landing here to also pass through Namibia, land there, and because what we will really need to do after we have get these two ports to speak to one another is to look at how we can introduce high-end luxury products that are meant to attract tourists to Namibia, what they do here, what attracts them to Jamaica, we can emulate.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government aims to create a society in which feasible measures are being put in place to improve social and economic development. He discussed the matter while speaking at the Jamaica 60 joint sitting of the Senate and the House of Representatives last week. In his address, leader of the opposition, Mark Golding, called for a greater sense of patriotism in order to do so. Raquel Robinson has the details.
As a part of the social and economic development plan the government has long since put into place, the Prime Minister is now underscoring the importance of it in building the nation. In addition, he is emphasizing the significance of placing greater emphasis on the matter.
This is where the effort and focus needs to be. Our political class has demonstrated that it can come up with the policies to address the social issues, that it can build the institutions, but we have just not seemed to have settled the economic policies. However, we are now on our journey to consolidate our economic independence. And as I have said repeatedly, this is a priority for my administration. For decades, we have made political decisions that are inconsistent with sound economic thinking, which have had detrimental social and economic consequences.
He notes the circumstances that contributed to the lack of development within these areas, but acknowledged society's role in other areas that led to the country's own shortcoming.
External events like natural disasters, global recessions, and wars have created serious challenges, but we must admit that some of these crises have been of our own making. For example, allowing inefficient state entities to continue to operate without immediate intervention, resulting in the accumulation of debt.
The Prime Minister also spoke to the greatest success achieved within the last decade for the island.
The most outstanding achievement of our nation in the last decade would be the political consensus around sustainable fiscal management and debt reduction. This achievement started in 2010 with the Fiscal Responsibility Framework. It was enshrined in law with the Fiscal Rule Amendments in 2014 to the FAA and PBMA Acts.
Leader of the opposition Mark Golding, in his remarks, made a call for the nation to push forward towards the future.
Jamaica 60 is an opportunity for us to come together and recommit to full political independence by removing the last vestiges of past colonial rule. So let us come together to achieve these outstanding and fundamental elements of our national independence. Further procrastination is an affront to our nationhood and our sense of self.
According to Norwich University, fiscal management includes the planning, directing, and controlling of financial resources, whether for a private or public agency. The government of Jamaica, GOJ, in recent years has undertaken profound actions to institutionalize key public financial management (PFM) enhancements, which include bolstered the fiscal responsibility framework within stronger fiscal rules, reconstructed the Accountant General's Department and prioritizing its continued transformation into a modern treasury, and reorganized the debt management function in the Ministry of Finance in line with international norms. For PBCJ News, I'm Raquel Robinson.
Member of Parliament for St. Anne South, Lisa Hanna, is leaving representational politics. After serving 3.5 terms as a Member of Parliament for St. Anne South, news has emerged of her intentions to not seek re-election at the next general election. The People's National Party, PNP, has expressed gratitude to party member Lisa Hanna for service to her constituency and the party following news of her intentions to leave representational politics. In a release on Tuesday, PNP leader Mark Golding said, quote, "Comrade Hanna's commitment to Jamaica remains an inspiration to our youth and those looking to enter representational politics. I look forward to continue working with Comrade Hanna on areas in which she is passionate and has achieved significant results." End quote. Ms. Hanna says she will serve her constituency through to the end of her term. Music is synonymous with Jamaica's culture and history. Last week, we aired the first in a 3-part series, Jamaica's 60th Independence Celebration, The Musical Journey, in collaboration with Herbie Miller, curator of the Jamaica Music Museum. The conversation continues. Jamaica's first musical movement internationally was the more up-tempo sound of ska. Mr. Miller says the beats were a little slower before, but music producers began importing American records.
When the music scene changed in the United States, from that black R&B thing to when people like Presley and when it became that lighter, more watered down style of rock and roll, the Everly Brothers, and when rock and roll became, it wasn't, the black people made the R&B and the thing. It was called race music, as a matter of fact. But when the Pat Boones and these people started doing it and sort of, quote unquote, refined it, it didn't have the same kind of impact on the Jamaica blues dance crowd. So they started making their own versions of that. So that's how it started, with them making these what record collectors in Jamaica call pre-ska music or blues. They have various little names for it. And so that came before ska. You know? If you listen to songs like things like Muriel and songs like those by the older singers, it's really R&B they're singing. And then of course after that something happened and the flavor, the tempo, the whole vibe changed, and then ska emerged out of that. So ska is not the same as the blues beat songs, but it takes on a more modern jazzy influence. It becomes a bit faster.
Would you say that the commentary in Jamaican music changed after 1962?
Well, as things change, stories change, you know. In 1962, we either don't want independence or we want independence. But there are so many other things happening between 1962 throughout the 60s that the music addressed. You had the Cuban Missile Crisis. The music addressed it. You have the assassination of Kennedy. The music addressed it. You had a big scandal in England called the Perfumer scandal. The music addressed it. You ever hear a song called Pound Get a Blow? Yeah, Peter Tosh. Pound Get a Blow. But that was much later. You have another song that's like, Give Me Back My Shilling with the lion on it.
Everybody get ready. It's time to rock steady.
By the late 60s, ska began to evolve into reggae, led by artists such as Bob Marley, Burning Spear, and Peter Tosh. Reggae developed with central themes of peace, love, justice, and equality. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
The VM Group says it will be ready for the proposed implementation of open banking measures, which are aimed at improving the ease at which consumers can switch accounts from one bank to the next, and to adopt an open finance policy that allows consumers to do more. The declaration was made by CEO of the VM Group, Courtney Campbell, during the group's 143rd annual general meeting.
VM is eagerly awaiting open banking. We are confident that given the quality of our service delivery, the competitiveness of our products, and our demonstrated commitment to financial inclusion, our business should benefit from data portability and open banking whenever it is implemented in Jamaica. We will be ready.
He goes on to say that he hopes that the policy goes beyond switching data from one bank to another.
In fact, as an integrated financial group, we are also eager for our regulators to adopt open finance, which goes beyond the scope of transactional bank accounts to include mortgages, pensions, insurance, investments, and stocks, all connected across shared networks.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, August 9, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.19. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $119.16. The pound sterling traded for $184.65, and the euro sold for an average of $156.58. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Tuesday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 4,084 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 10 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 3,728 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,806 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 106 stocks, of which 36 advanced, 51 declined, and 19 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and Access Financial Services Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Trading firm were Blue Power Group Limited, CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares, and Siboney Group Limited. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders: Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with over 2 million units, Wigton Windfarm Limited Ordinary Shares, and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was a volume leader with over 60,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with 96 shares being traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the sole security trading over 4,000 shares. In regional business, in Guyana, the Ministry of Agriculture on Tuesday awarded contracts aimed at improving the production of sugar and livestock rearing in Guyana.
According to Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, critical work is needed at the Guyana Sugar Corporation, GuySuco, to ensure that sugar production in Guyana can continue to provide jobs and contribute to the economy. He said the ministry is ensuring that the necessary parts are procured for factories to improve capacity and production.
Hopefully that we can use these works that will be executing over the next few weeks to ensure that, as I said yesterday in the Parliament, to recapitalize and modernize GuySuco so that we can bring it back to break-even point and at the same time profitability. We have GuySuco who have a number of contracts here this afternoon that they will be signing. You know for a fact that GuySuco over the last few months, a number of persons have been, entire country have been looking at GuySuco because GuySuco is one of the most important agency for us in terms of employment and at the same time production.
Two of the contracts were awarded to the General Engineering Guyana Limited to supply and deliver mobile pumps. The contracts together amount to $295 million. The mobile pumps are needed to boost the capacity of the existing pumps. They will quickly remove water from the area, therefore avoiding community floods. While another contract amounting to $45,177,244 was awarded to the Garnet Engineers. This contract is for the supply of new boiler tubes and refractory materials at the GuySuco boiler. The minister reminded the contractors that the works must be done in a timely manner and must be done properly.
We have been constantly signing new contracts to ensure that we discharge our responsibility to the people of our country. And you are who are contractors and whose contracts were awarded to are person that we have chosen to ensure you help us to execute our work program in a timely manner.
The minister said that the contracts will see the rice and sugar industry being revitalized. He said this is important because the country is setting goals to meet its target of being the food capital of the Caribbean.
So in the agriculture sector, we are seeing a lot of exciting activities, and the future for agriculture looks very bright in terms of moving the country's production, and at the same time the leadership in the Caribbean. A number of countries are looking forward to us to lead the agriculture sector.
$1.9 billion was allocated to the Ministry of Agriculture on Monday. The allocation is a supplementary appropriation allotted to the ministry for further development in the sector. Of this amount, some $3.4 million was allocated to GuySuco.
In market data for oil prices fell on expectations that Jusba pipeline flows will resume shortly and demand concerns ahead of publication of key demand indicators. Brent crude was down $1.69 to $94.62, and West Texas Intermediate crude was down $1.61 at $88.89 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Barbados, the Alliance Owners of Public Transport is calling for government to grant the public service vehicle sector a concession or ease in the midst of rising fuel prices. The group's Communication, Information and Marketing Officer, Mark Haynes, made the call as he notes the recent increases in diesel and gasoline are another blow for the industry.
This situation is rather debilitating and places operators under enormous stress in an effort to survive as they grapple with other miscellaneous costs. This situation is not only unsustainable in this current environment, but most untenable and cannot continue unabated. I therefore call on the government of Barbados to move with alacrity to save and cushion the PSV sector from the onslaught of rising gas costs at the pump, as it has the propensity to drive many out of business.
In the Bahamas, Prime Minister Philip Davis says the government has failed to follow public procurement laws that were passed and enacted under the former administration, but now he says government plans to bring amendments.
Not workable is how Prime Minister Philip Davis is describing the public procurement bill that was passed under the former minister administration. While admitting the government hasn't followed that law, Davis says the act, which came into force on September 1st, 2021, is causing some issues.
If we were to follow the law as it is, we'll now be able to bring the relief to people, particularly you would have seen the challenges that we had at the hospital. If we were to follow that, we'd probably still be in the potholes trying to address the issues.
The legislation, among other things, is crafted to provide transparency when it comes to how government ministries, departments, and other agencies enter contracts and expend public money. The Act states that publication of procurement notes should be published in the Gazette or in one or more newspapers of wide circulation. Davis says the law doesn't allow for a quick reaction.
We are an archipelago, and so whatever construct we have has to take into account our peculiar and particular circumstance. We have to be able to respond to the needs of our people almost immediately in some instances.
While he supported the legislation in opposition, the PM committed to amending the legislation when they came into office, but that didn't happen. The Prime Minister says there is a more important question to be asked.
One of the questions that you should be asking, and you should be asking that of the other side, is why would you have passed the bill in April, early in the year, and not have it in effect until September? Why would they? Because they understood what they were doing was not workable.
Now, according to the Prime Minister, the plan is to make amendments to that piece of legislation as soon as Parliament returns in September.
In Trinidad and Tobago, the main trade union bodies of the country met on Tuesday to vent their displeasure concerning the treatment of workers and the government's 4% wage offer.
President of the Public Services Association, Leroy Batiste, took the finance minister to task for raising gas prices 3 times and increasing the cost 5% at each point.
Comrades, do you understand the beast that we are dealing with? That doing nothing didn't meant it invoke his sympathy for you. By doing nothing, he lifted his foot as high as he could lift it, and he gave you the kick of all kicks.
Mr. Batiste says that doing nothing is not an option for workers because to stay quiet is to court more oppression.
In Antigua, First Caribbean International Bank donated 5,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars to prostate cancer screening.
Well, the health efforts targeted men over 40 is scheduled for this Saturday starting at 8 a.m. at the Lions Den.
Cancer affects so many persons in so many different facets of their lives. So we are proud to be supporting anything that will reduce that trauma.
It's better to put a finger in than to put your foot in the grave, and we must always remember that.
In international news, an immigration standoff has intensified in the United States as Texas is busing migrants to other states with little notice or coordination. The American Civil Liberties Union criticized the move and called on the federal government to investigate.
They arrived by bus, tired and hungry. Several dozen migrants and asylum seekers from mostly Central and South American countries arrived over the weekend to a bus terminal in New York City. They all had one-way tickets and nowhere to go. They all crossed into the U.S. to the state of Texas days earlier. But that state's governor, Greg Abbott, has said that they are overwhelmed by the recent influx of migrants, so he's bused some of them to immigrant-friendly New York City as a way of saying, you deal with them. But New York's mayor, Eric Adams, on Monday blasted Abbott, saying the city shelters are unprepared to properly care for the migrants.
I don't think anything is more anti-American than shipping people on a bus, 45-hour trip, without any of the basic needs that they have, or direction or coordination. Coordination. We have no idea the number of people. We have no idea of where their final destinations are. He's just totally disregarding the human part of this.
And it's not just New York. In recent days and weeks, Abbott has bused an estimated 6,000 migrants to Washington, D.C. as well, a city already dealing with a homeless crisis. The Defense Department rejected the mayor's request for National Guard troops to help deal with the influx of migrants from Texas. Abbott is a far-right conservative with a record of pro-gun and anti-immigration policies. He's currently in a hard-fought re-election campaign in November. While he says busing migrants to Washington and New York is only because his state's social safety net is being strained, others see him as using migrants as pawns in a dangerous political stunt. As for the migrants in New York, many were desperate.
Well, why did I come here? Because of the situation in the country that everyone knows about. Because it's difficult to survive in Venezuela. There's no medicine, there's no security, there's nothing. There is no way to live in peace.
As is normally the case with political battles of immigration in America, it's humans who often get used as pawns, this time in the form of one-way bus tickets. Gabriel Elizondo, Al Jazeera, New York.
In sports, Ray & Nephew White Overproof Rum has announced its support for Jamaica's senior netball team and Netball Jamaica to the tune of $14 million. The support follows the Sunshine Girls' impressive performance in the netball competition at the just concluded Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, England, where they secured the silver medal. Pavel Smith, marketing manager for J. Ray & Nephew Limited, says his team is honored to partner with the Sunshine Girls and Netball Jamaica. The partnership will be an initial 3-year relationship with an option for renewal thereafter. The West Indies senior men will have a chance to redeem themselves when they take on New Zealand in a 3-match T20 and one-day international series that gets going in Jamaica today, August 10.
The Kiwis made the journey to the land of wood and water after a successful European tour where they won all 11 of their games across 5 different series. Head coach Gary Steed says they will be using this T20 series against the men in maroon to have a last look at potential players before the T20 World Cup.
For us, it's about finalising the 15 that will go there, getting clear on some of the combinations that we want to see, and hopefully just getting guys back into T20 mode who haven't played for a while.
The Kiwis have brought their full-strength team, but Steed noted the surprise package that is the Windies.
West Indies are just coming off playing India, who are obviously a quality side as well, and they've had some close matches there. They always throw some unexpected things at you at times, and we know the power that they have with the bat as well, so we certainly won't be taking these guys lightly at all.
Meanwhile, New Zealand quick Lockie Ferguson expressed his delight on his first international tour to the Caribbean.
Yeah, obviously being a fast bowler fan, it's very exciting to be here, sitting on the Courtney Walsh end. Obviously growing up watching, seeing Fires of Babylon movie, it's pretty exciting to come here and be a part of it. And we had a good trip in Europe and the UK, but certainly excited to be here and take on the West Indies.
The visitors have won 3 of the last 5 encounters, with 2 being no results. However, Windies key batter Brandon King says the expectation of added-on pressure is non-existent.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that this series is any different from the previous ones we have played. Obviously, we're building towards a World Cup, so The coach will have his role, and he's trying to finalize how he wants the team to be set up. But we as players, we have to focus on our job, which is performing our best for the team and trying to win games.
King is expected to play in front of his home crowd when they take on the Kiwis on Wednesday in the first T20 at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time.
That's it for the news on PBCJ. Thanks for watching.